From Pod World Headquarters, this is the Carolina Insider from Learfield.
We're back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider. Jones and Adam here with you. Adam, there's a 5-second challenge coming up. I have a 1-second challenge for you, Adam.
Okay.
Do you know what day it is?
Friday?
It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend, partying, fun, looking forward to the weekend.
Adam, what's going on?
This really has felt like a week of Fridays.
That's right. Well, it's just this time of the year. The weather's getting warmer. The sun's out. That means Adam's going shirtless out on the town.
Last day of class this week. Who has a rough one?
Yeah,
for me?
how you doing?
I barely straggled in here. I did many hurricanes.
So, great to be with you. Always enjoy this time of year. And Adam, surprisingly, a fair amount going on. I'm going to talk about that coming up in just a second. We have a guest that has been in the queue for a long time, Patrick Suttus, the new general manager for Carolina football. We actually talked to Patrick before spring ball. And the plan was to run it kind of once spring football got started. But then, of course, basketball went crazy, and we had the run with the Tar Heels. So there'll be a couple moments in this interview where it may not 100% make sense, but just understand that the timing was a little weird as far as when we did this. Mentioned the 5-second challenge. We have Adam's list, including the pod cruise. Big goings on there. And we have some stories, some tournament stories, some non-tournament stories, and not a full story, but another Tar Heel in the tournament bet, Adam. Remember we had Susan Yowd with the tattoo. This takes it to another level.
If Hubert Davis and the Heels had realized what was on the line as they took the court, they probably would have taken it much more seriously with all these friendly wagers that were going on.
Yeah.
You distracted me when you asked me a question because I was looking at my microphone to see if I could get it unscrewed to take it with me on the pod cruise.
Yeah. Yeah, we need these exact microphones when we're on the cruise.
Or we could just get a replica 3D printed and just set it up.
Yeah, we know how that works.
Set it up right in the captain's quarters where I assume we'll be staying.
Man, we'll just go out to the leisure deck first thing in the morning, do a little podding.
Maybe after a quick round of shuffleboard.
Yeah, and I'll need to have a full captain's level breakfast first as well.
Yeah, well, they bring that to my stateroom is what I understood.
So we'll attack the pod cruise coming up. Whole show, as always, brought to you in part by LS Tractor. Don't let your outside chores or projects cause you to miss any Tar Heel game action. Whether you need to mow it, till it, or move it, let LS Tractor make short work of it. They have that current offer. Free loader, purchase of a tractor. Visit lstractorusa.com to learn more. LS Tractor, now you can do more for less.
Free loaders only for a limited time, though.
Limited. I have had a lot of construction equipment out in front of our neighborhood. There's a massive construction project going on across the road from our neighborhood. And the last week and a half, the road's been closed. So I've had to go this around my elbow to get to my thumb, Adam. And it's added like 4 minutes to my drive both ways. And you don't think that would be a big deal, but at some point it wears you down.
Yeah.
Those 4 minutes are precious.
Is somebody constructing an inflatable display stand?
Yes. Yeah, it's going to just be, you can buy Christmas holiday inflate. I don't want to limit that just to Christmas, of course. And there's going to be one little booth for that. There's going to be a cookout right there as well that only sells pod shakes, so I don't know how successful that'll be.
Extremely.
Yeah. There'll be it's really a strip mall. Then there's a steakhouse that serves the aristocratic tenderness right there.
You may never need to come in.
Yeah, by the way, I'm the one who bought this land and raised the raise the woods and putting up my own personal strip mall.
Land barons.
Yeah, that's right. See? But Adam, there are a couple of pieces of relevant news going on, both at the NCAA level this week and at the Tar Heel solely level. Why don't we start with the NCAA stuff? Because a couple of big pieces of news. One, the fact that Mark Emmert, president of the NCAA, is going to be stepping down in June of 23. So after about a little more than one more year.
Did he dance at his retirement announcement press conference?
Yeah, they cranked up Cascada super loud.
Okay.
I mean, obviously.
And Trevor Keels looked on with a slightly confused expression.
And then also, Adam, and kind of these two things go hand in hand. I think we have mentioned this, that this was occurring, that there was this thing called the Transformation Committee that had been looking at college athletics in total and was going to come back with some suggestions on how they thought things could be transformed. We've heard Bubba Cunningham talk about this. Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, was a member of this committee. And according to a story on SI.com by Ross Dellinger earlier this week, these are not official, but these are, due to his reporting, some of the changes that are going to be suggested. Eliminating scholarship caps on sports that offer only partial scholarships. I think the best way to understand that is baseball. Baseball has 35 players on their roster, but only have 11.7 scholarships to work with to fill that roster. So this is suggesting that you could give scholarships to all 35 members of a team like that. Abolishing the limitation on the number of coaches per team. I assume that is most relevant in football, where the coaching staff is already ballooning. And you hear, I mean, Carolina, I'm not acting like the Tar Heels don't do this. I mean, there's a bunch of analysts and GAs and just all these different ways that you do get more people into the building, for lack of a better term. But I think just making that more, I guess, consistent in the fact that there are no limitations.
I think it would impact basketball, too.
Yeah, basketball as well.
I mean, basketball staffs are already starting to look more like NBA staffs. If this were to come true, they would look very much like NBA staffs.
Expanding direct payments from schools to athletes.
Well, and I believe that's in reference to some of the Austin payments, where schools can make payments to student athletes for meeting certain academic goals, but there is no guideline on what the academic goals are. So, for example, I think Ole Miss was one of the first to do this, and their bar that the student athletes had to clear was being eligible. And if they managed to achieve that feat, then they would get the full payment. And there have been some schools that have done the full payment, which might be like $5,900 over the course of I think it's school year, not a semester. Either way, I would take it. I'm eligible.
Right.
And then some schools do just a portion of what's available. And of course, I mean, that becomes a recruiting tool to say, well, if you come to school X and you just manage to be eligible, you'll receive this amount of dollars for that. That's a big deal in recruiting. So if you expand those type of payments, that's becoming more prevalent.
And then the other two, at least in this article, reconfiguring the recruiting calendar, implementing closed periods in the NCAA transfer portal, which I think a lot of coaches would like that one, certainly. Adam, to me, and there's somewhere in here, there's a quote of like a group. Oh, here it is. The one group of five athletic director quoted as saying, every G5 AD is like holy blank. And
that was my quote.
Yeah, that was Adam's direct quote. I mean, Adam, this is significant. It continues to trend, and I think you and I believe this. We've talked to other people who are much more involved in this that seem to believe this, that the big schools in the big sports eventually are going to be separate from everyone else. That's just the way it feels like it's going. And I think a lot of these suggestions, and again, these are just the ones that were mentioned in this particular article, not the only ones that may be suggested. It just feels like these suggestions support that argument. And
again, as Jen said, these haven't been implemented, but the fact that they've been suggested or even thought about represents a dramatic change over what college sports has been at a time when we've already seen a bunch of other dramatic changes. I mean, you have to understand, not just the group of five wouldn't be able to keep up if, let's say, we take all these changes and say, okay, we're doing this. There's quite a few schools in the Power Five that wouldn't be able to keep up with that.
Yeah.
Because of the way your very top 10 or maybe 20 schools would spend money on that if they had the ability to. It's just not financially viable for a majority of schools to do that.
Yeah, it's almost like these schools said, okay, we've spent all we can spend on facilities for now. Let's figure out some other ways that we can spend this money that will give competitive advantages. And I mean, there's a lot of this is such a big issue to tackle. I do think some concerns are the widening gap between the haves and the have-nots, the viability of this for a majority of schools, as you mentioned. What does this do to a lot of non-revenue sports? Because it just feels like the future of college athletics, at least as it currently is 100% driven by one thing, and that is revenue. And if you are not revenue-based or helping with the revenue or able to provide revenue, then you're not as important. In these terms of this land that it seems like we're heading towards.
Well, at some point it reaches a point where you're not doing the same thing. I mean, we still live in a world where St. Peter's can make the Elite Eight.
Right.
But we're not very far at all from a world where St. Peter's is going to be in a different division or conference.
Yeah, they're not even in the same tournament. Like, literally not in the same tournament.
Yeah, they will not be playing, not because they didn't qualify, but because they're not part of the organization that hosts the schools that are in the tournament. I mean, the tournament is going to look more like the PKI than it is the NCAA tournament.
That's right.
And you won't have St. Peter's anymore, for better or worse. I mean, they certainly served their purpose for the Tar Heels this year. But if you like that kind of story, I just can't imagine it. It's not quite as much of a plucky upstart if Tennessee manages to beat Alabama in the college football playoff round of 32. But that's where we're headed, I think. And I don't really have an answer for it. I mean, another issue that was raised in that story was, let's say you eliminating scholarship caps, like, you can't just throw that out there and not give a bit of a nod to the fact that you're talking about a ton of money.
Yeah, so let's just use baseball as the example. So you're looking at then saying, okay, 23 more scholarships now for this sport need to be available. And then I think it's, do you have to fill the 35, or is that just available to you? But then there's just the competitive imbalance again, because let's say that Florida is going to offer their full 35 scholarships, but Wake Forest is only going to offer 13. Well, I mean, that's not brain surgery where somebody's going to go if you're getting recruited by both of those schools and one of them's going to offer you a full scholarship and one of them's not. But how many schools can afford 23 more scholarships for baseball? And then
how many schools are in the SEC and Big Ten?
Right.
That's how many can.
And then what does that mean Title IX wise of, do you then have to make sure that it's comparable on the women's side? What sports are there on the women's side available even to have the scholarships there as an option. It's just, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea necessarily, but to your point, there's got to be a lot more thought that goes into it other than just saying, okay, this needs to happen now.
Well, and 11.7 scholarships for baseball is dumb.
It is dumb.
I think we all realize that and understand that. But there's quite a gap between 11.7 and 35.
Right.
And if you went all the way to 35, you're fundamentally changing college baseball, because now all of a sudden, all the players who bypass college, well, all of a sudden that's looking pretty good. So you're telling me I can go to school for free, I can take advantage of NIL, or I can go play for the Mount Verde Avocados or something.
Right.
I might want to go to college. I think college baseball starts looking very different and much more like a minor league if that many folks have that opportunity, because look, high school baseball players have realized you're not going to get a full scholarship going to college to play baseball. You might get a little bit of money, but you're going because you want to play at a pretty high level, and that may be the highest level you can play at. Well, that level changes if everyone's getting a full scholarship. Why would I go live in an apartment with 8 other guys and play minor league baseball for a too small amount of money when I could go to college for free and be a stud at school X and have a great 3 years? That sounds way better to me.
Right. Well, we've said it a million times. It's just 10 years from now, 5 years from now, it's going to be not what it is right now, and it is not what it was 10 years ago.
The length of time I think we are away from it being completely different
is shorter than you think.
It gets shorter every single day.
Well, and I have another. I mean, I don't think it's all bad, but I mean, what are we doing? Like, what is college athletics? It's just different.
Well, and think about the change we've seen in college athletics in the last 12 months. The biggest favor Mark Emmert could do college athletics would be to say, I said I was going on my Coach K retirement tour, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave now so that you can find somebody who can steer this ship for the next 12 months. Because if it changes as much in the next 12 months as it has in the last 12 months, we may get to Mark Emmert's retirement day and nobody knows what the heck's going on. So
that's a great point.
Get someone in today, and folks have been throwing out some lists of current ADs or current commissioners or folks completely out of sports in the business world. Get whoever that is in today and give them some authority to make the changes they need, because who knows, in June of 2023, the horse may be running out in the field and the barn's already burned down.
At some point, I feel like, although I've felt this way at some point, there's got to be some kind of tipping point monetarily, right? Like, it can't just keep going up and up. At some point, it has to regulate.
Yeah, I don't think that's the way it works. Like, there's not an unlimited amount of money.
Not that I'm aware. I mean, obviously, crypto there is. I just created crypto. I just created Jones Coin again. Podcoin. We should create Podcoin. That can help fund some sports.
We can't even create Pod Shirt, much less Podcoin.
By the way, totally just off the beaten path of what we're talking about here. I was listening to some interview about a draft, like pre-NFL draft stuff, and they were talking about, I think it was the dude at Oregon, Kevin, what's his, Thibodeau, the DN?
Yeah.
Kevin, Kavan, maybe, it's something.
Okay.
But anyway.
Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the knocks on him is that he has too many other interests other than football, which in and of itself is a whole nother discussion. But one of them was he created his own cryptocurrency. How do you do? How can people still not see it, Adam? Didn't Tom Brady didn't he start his own crypto? You can't just say you're starting money. How do people not understand this?
Maybe that.
Guys, I've started a new money. It's called the dollar. Here. And it's like, oh, wait, isn't that, it looks a lot like the dollar. No, not the dollar. It's the dollar. This one that has a 1 on it is worth 10. And this one that has a 10 on it is worth 5,000. Okay.
Maybe this is where all the unlimited money is coming from.
I'm sorry. I got off. That just.
Well, also, on another side note to your side note, the days of saying that someone has more interest in their life other than whatever sport they play as a negative, that went away with NIL. Everyone's interested in making money for themselves.
Everybody likes money.
They just didn't have the option prior to 9 months ago. Well, now they do. So you can just write that down for every player in every future draft. Sometimes likes capitalizing on their talents. I see this as a negative.
Yeah, there's only one league that still has enough leverage for that to matter, and it's the NFL. It's the only one that still matters.
Right.
But anyway, sorry, we got sidetracked. So college athletics, who knows? I mean, it feels like every offseason, Adam, it's like a roller coaster right now. And then you get back in it, you play the games, and everybody remembers what they like, and it's the games and your school and the tournaments and the big wins, and then all of a sudden you get to this time of year and you're like, oh, yeah, everything's a dumpster fire. I forgot.
Well, and you might just wake up on like a Thursday and the NCAA's decided, you remember all those things we believed in and all those commercials you watched and all that stuff?
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We don't do that. It's all of you guys take care of that now. We run the basketball tournament.
Yeah.
Please put your drink in a cup. Well, and you know that's going to be the hardest thing to make them go away from. That's basically what they do now is the basketball tournament. And all the other tournaments to like practice for the basketball tournament.
Right.
But the basketball tournament is where the money is and essentially why they exist at this point in time. Well, when there's the Power 20 teams and they're going to have their own tournament, the NCAA is going to be over here like, wait a minute, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, here's the NCAA tournament. But, guys, bad news. Carolina and Michigan and Duke and Florida and UCLA, they're not in it. They're in their own tournament.
We've got a Final Four showdown between two longtime rivals, Gonzaga and St. Mary's, coming up on CBS at 8:49 p.m. Why isn't anyone watching?
So, buckle up. It's silly season again. 9 months out of the year, college athletics awesome. Then you get to the 3 months when the games aren't being played as much and things start getting crazy again.
We need to talk to Bubba Cunningham
we do.
and have him tell us.
We hadn't had him in a while. We need to talk to him.
What does our level of concern need to be for all these things? Because he may know more than us about this. And maybe he'll say, oh, Jones and Adam, don't worry about it. You know those transformation committee crazy guys, when they get together, you never know what they're going to come up with.
Or he might pull his ripcord and his jetpack fires up and he zooms out the window. He's like, you guys figure it out. Since that's what the NCAA has done already. So, Adam, how about let's focus in on some Tar Heel stuff. Start football, of course, NFL draft going on starting last night as we're recording. No picks have been made. The Jaguars are still on the clock.
It's 11:30 at night on Thursday.
Adam and I were just saying before we started, why is it that why do you get your 15 minutes when you have the first pick or whatever it is, or 10, I know, 10, 15, whatever it is. You should have to make your pick as soon as the TV broadcast begins for pick number one. You don't need the extra time.
I think the dumbest thing is that the hosts of the show are always like, well, the Jaguars may be fielding some trade offers. Hey, if she hadn't called by now, she ain't calling. You gave her your number.
Yeah.
You told her where you live. You gave her your email address. And if she hasn't called in the last 3 months, it's not happening. We don't need to continue the charade.
Don't worry. Adam is just stuck in a Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan movie where people still set up their dates via email. Let me send you an email real fast, see if you're free on Friday. There's no other way I could possibly get to you faster than this.
How do you do it? With crypto?
Yeah, that's right. But so, I mean, Sam Howell's going to get picked. I don't know when. Most of the mock drafts and guys who are draft analysts and obviously know this much better than you or I, have Sam, it's like the 4th or the 5th quarterback in their rankings. That doesn't mean that somebody won't like him more than that, but certainly would think he would go, if I have it right, Thursday is round 1, Friday is round 2 and 3, and then Saturday is 4 through 7. I think that's right. I mean, I would think he would go in round 2 or 3, but I don't know that. I guess we'll have to wait and see. This is considered a little bit of a weaker quarterback class in total, in that there isn't a slam dunk, top 5 pick who's a quarterback. A lot of the buzz has been around either Kenny Pickett from Pitt or Malik Willis from Liberty. So we'll just have to wait and see. I certainly, again, Sam's going to get taken. Where we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I would think Joshua Ezeudu has a good chance to get drafted at some point for the Tar Heels. I think Ty Chandler has a good chance to get drafted at some point for the Tar Heels. Some other guys, Jordan Tucker, Marcus McKeithen, some offensive linemen, do they get chosen somewhere in the later rounds? Do they get a chance for a free agent signing? Kyler McMichael, another one who would have a chance, I would think, as a later round pick or a free agent signing. So all that will get hashed out over the next couple days, and certainly wish nothing but the best for those guys.
Have you ever thought about what it would be like if you were someone who might actually get drafted and you have to deal with the upcoming stress of essentially the rest of your life getting determined by a bunch of people who you really don't know and have probably only met once?
And all the lead up to it, and especially if you're a first-round type of draft pick. I mean, just the scrutiny that's been put on your life for the last, I'm sure longer than the last year, but there's such big investments for these teams to put into these guys, especially at a quarterback position. I mean, it's incredible.
When everybody asks you about it all the time,
right?
Like you see them at the grocery store, like, what's going to happen with that draft? I don't know.
Yeah, I
would like to know.
So best of luck, certainly, to those guys. Looking forward to seeing where they all land. And I just have a hard time believing Sam Howell isn't going to at least get a shot to be the quarterback for somebody in the NFL. I mean, there are very clearly some things that he can improve on, but that's okay.
Yeah. Is he a day one starter, absolute lock,
right?
Hand over the franchise to this guy? No, but I have a hard time believing that if you don't give him a set of things that you want him to do well and say, spend these next 12 months learning these things.
Right.
In 12 months, I think he's going to be able to check most of the boxes on your list.
Also, just kind of on a stray tangent Tar Heel note, keep an eye on what Pittsburgh does. Of course, Mitch Trubisky signed with Pittsburgh. It was either a 1 or a 2 year deal, so a shorter deal. They seem to be in the market for a quarterback, so it seems like their plan is have Trubisky start for a year or two, then whoever they end up picking, handing the keys over to him after a season or two. So just worth keeping your eye on.
Wow, that sounds like a fine situation.
Yeah. Some other current Tar Heel team news, Adam, transfer portal-wise, and it goes both ways for the Tar Heels. Kamaro Edmonds, Havelock native, who a running back for Carolina, heading into the transfer portal. That is a position that is pretty deep and crowded right now for Carolina, with British Brooks returning after his strong end to last season. DJ Jones, Elijah Green. The Heels have 2 freshmen coming in, one already here at that position. So it is a deep and talented spot. Edmonds electing to head into the transfer portal. And then, Adam, 2 players from Ohio State, legend Cavazos, a defensive back, and then Jacoby Cohen, a defensive lineman, both entering the portal and coming to Carolina. Cohen, certainly a name, and I think it's Cohen and not Cowan, a name that Tar Heel fans, if you follow recruiting, probably recognize from recruiting, somebody that Carolina was after coming out of high school. He's from Charlotte, went to Providence Day, a school where Carolina's had plenty of guys matriculate from. And so 2 guys coming in, they've certainly seen football at a high level with Ohio State, and 2 guys who hopefully can help provide some talent and depth to that Tar Heel defense.
And Mac Brown said he wanted to make better, or I guess more efficient use of the transfer portal, and the Tar Heels go right out and do it. And I mean, certainly you would think you will see both those names contribute in some way in the fall. And
we're going to get to some more football talk. Patrick Suttus coming up in just a minute. A couple pieces of basketball news, Adam. First, we'll start with Adam and I both aware, as I'm sure you are as a Tar Heel fan, a big basketball commitment this week. We can't talk, as you know, about specific guys until they sign.
Look, we could probably give them $800,000 to come play here.
Yeah.
But we cannot say their name on the Carolina Insider podcast. Transformation committee's on that. Don't worry.
But Adam, huge pickup for Carolina. The Tar Heels currently, this is in the class of 2023, so guys who are going to be seniors in high school next year. That gives Carolina 2 top 15 commitments from that class, and certainly an exciting time to be following Carolina basketball. Hard not to be excited with both the talent currently and then kind of now as you see the next few years starting to lay out and how that roster may look.
Well, March and April, if you watch Carolina play, if you're a high school basketball player, how could you not want to play for Hubert Davis?
Well, I truly think Hubert Davis is going to be and currently is undeniable when he is meeting with players and parents. If you don't like Hubert Davis, it's probably something wrong with you. He's just a magnetic personality. So you've already got that. But now, I think last year, that's probably what you had to hang your hat on in recruiting if you were the Tar Heels, of look how awesome Coach Davis is. And, of course, the history of Carolina basketball. I mean, all that stuff, of course, always there.
Michael Jordan, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah. But now, I think you have that. Plus, you have success on the court. You and I have talked about it. I mean, the Tar Heels, I'm not going to say totally changed the way they played, but it just was a different style of basketball. And I don't know what game it was, and I don't know if it was like Tar Heels were doing one thing against Wake Forest and then the next game are doing something totally different. But Carolina changed the way it played some point during the season to a very NBA modern style of play, and I think that's attractive to a lot of guys, and which makes sense. So now all of a sudden you've got a relatively young coach who has a terrific personality, has the success of going to the national championship game with some very high-profile wins against other good teams, at a place that is used to being very good at basketball, that there is the support system there to be good, that there is the energy in the program, there is the support from the community and the school and all those different things. And you've got an attractive style of play. So that doesn't mean that every 4 and 5 star that the Tar Heels want will come here, but man, that's a great combination to think about.
It's exactly what Hubert Davis said he was accustomed to when he was a player here, and it's what he wants to sell as the coach here, that it fills all the requirements you're looking for, and seems like he's doing very well on the recruiting trail right now.
2 other pieces of basketball news, Adam, and then we'll get to our conversation with Patrick Suttus, and then the back half of the show. 5-second challenge, Adam's list, pod cruise, stories. Kerwin Walton enters his name into the NBA draft, or testing the waters for the NBA, Adam. I just wasn't expecting to see that, but certainly it makes sense to get feedback anytime you can for somebody who has that option available to them. And so Kerwin, who, as we know, had his role change dramatically from his freshman to his sophomore year. We talked about Kerwin a little bit on in a last show or two. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't think Kerwin Walton's going to go to the NBA draft currently after this past season, but putting his name in to get some of that feedback.
Has about a month to
June 1st,
gather the feedback and then take his name out. I don't think it's a bad idea to get feedback from someone who doesn't know you and is looking at you with a fresh eye. Certainly you get feedback from your current coaches, but they have this background with you that just naturally impacts everything they think, both good and bad, about you. They've seen you at your best and your worst. So if you can get feedback from folks who get paid to do it for a living, who don't know you as well and can just see you brand new, then I don't think that's bad.
And then, Adam, again, this one on the unofficial side of things, but John Rothstein, who certainly covers college basketball at a obsessive level, saying that Carolina is going to play Michigan in that Jumpman Invitational. If you remember that, we mentioned probably about this time last year that this new event is going to be played in Charlotte in the Spectrum Center. It's expected to be played right before Christmas, and 4 teams, Carolina, Michigan, Oklahoma, Florida, and expected to be Carolina and Michigan, at least according to John Rothstein, in that matchup. And, Adam, I mean, the Tar Heels non-conference schedule, you're going to have Michigan, if this reporting is accurate, and it's good, even if it isn't, it's going to be Oklahoma or Florida. You've got your ACC Big Ten Challenge, so likely not Michigan, but
and not Michigan State because they're in the PKI.
Yeah. You've got the PKI with great teams. We mentioned that, I think, on the last show. And you've got the CBS Sports Classic thing. This Jumpman Invitational isn't replacing that, even though they're in the same similar time period. So and we don't know who Carolina's going to play. I would think it wouldn't be Kentucky, since the Heels have played them the last 2 years, but we'll play either Ohio State or UCLA in that. So there's going to be some really good opponents on the Tar Heel schedule.
Think of the non-conference matchups we'll have seen from this team before Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, the 3 games in the PKI will be stacked. You'll see Michigan, we think. You'll see ACC Big Ten, which will be on the road. You'll see CBS Sports Classic, which if that's Ohio State, your possibilities for the ACC Big Ten Challenge are getting thin.
Yeah. Who else could it? I mean, Illinois?
Purdue.
Iowa? I bet it's going to be Purdue.
Well, we know our way around Mackey Arena, so that's
we do.
just fine. So you'll know a lot about this Tar Heel team before Christmas, but of course we now know the ACC plays 37 conference games, so you'll also sprinkle a couple of conference games in there.
Yeah.
In sometime in early December, probably. Hopefully they won't decide this year is a year they want to start the year with conference games.
That was dumb.
So it should be a formidable schedule. But as a Carolina fan, what you also have to realize, I think, is if all these games are happening,
right,
the games that are going to be left to be played at the Smith Center, because this is a year that we think a lot or all of these are going to occur away from the Smith Center. The games that are at the Smith Center are probably not going to be Michigan, Michigan State, Kentucky, UCLA, and Ohio State.
Right. Yeah. You've got to have some games where you feel good about winning to work some stuff out, for sure. Okay, 2 more things, Adam. I keep saying last thing, but have something else I'd forgotten about. We mentioned the NFT stuff earlier, or the cryptocurrency. So I think I've gotten included on so many NFT tweets, like with people giving me guff.
Yeah.
That now I'm starting to get these bot NFT tweets.
Me too.
Yeah. So they think, like, the bots think I'm interested in the NFTs, when in reality the bots are dumb and mistaken.
You know who's going to clear all that up? Elon. Yeah. Elon Musk will take care of that.
Well, I saw he wasn't going to buy it.
What?
Yeah.
When did that happen?
I saw an article that said that in reality they thought that he was just messing with everybody and wasn't going to really buy it. I don't know.
I'm going to tell you something. When I'm messing with somebody, it doesn't have to do with $44 billion.
Yeah.
I'm not like, I'll give you $44 billion. Just kidding.
I'm just joking about that, everybody. Last thing, Adam, before we get to everything else. Oh, I just saw this. Anna Pinckney Straight responding with a tweet about the Cameo
theft.
Have we talked about that yet? I can't remember.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we did because we read her daughter's. Okay, yes.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, the pods all run together. I can't remember what I have and haven't done. But she responded. She said, I canceled because I felt greedy. 2 cameos is more glory than any one person can handle. I'm sorry, but I would totally book a Cammy bro. By the way, they also danced the jump around at the prom. We love being back in North Carolina.
Well, and we had an eyewitness account from a chaperone at the prom because Jones and Adam are everywhere. I think it was Ryan Seeger who said he was there and he could confirm that entire description of what happened, and that like a week later, the student body president from that school announced her intentions to go to Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what a plot twist at the end. She was the one who didn't want the projector, right?
Well, that's what happens.
Well, you're welcome. Brady Manick got that girl to want to come to Carolina. R.J. Davis did that.
Yeah.
Armando Baycott, you did this.
Soon she'll be walking right outside Pound World headquarters. She'll be like, I feel a pull to that place.
Cameron sent us a tweet, wanted to know if we're able to shed some light on the Rammies process, Adam, because the Rammies were this past Monday. Adam was there. He had been camped out, actually, for a couple days to make sure he got really good seats. And so we'll quickly go through this. So, yes, we can shed some light on it. The first part I'm about 90% sure on, and the second part I'm 100% sure on. The first part is I believe the individual teams, like sports, can nominate people for these different awards. So if they feel like they have somebody who should be nominated for best female athlete, for example, then they will nominate them.
The best female athletes don't nominate themselves.
Right.
It's not lame like if you nominate yourself for a Pulitzer.
Right.
Who would ever do that? This is the
what a
sports are
callback,
doing.
Adam. What a callback. Hashtag never forget.
I'll never let go.
Well, neither were they, so it's so the individual sports can nominate people for these individual awards. It normally gets, and I don't know if this is the amount of nominations or if it gets whittled down. It's normally like 5 or 6 that end up being who you vote on. Then there is a extraordinarily exclusive club of dignitaries who votes on these individual awards. It just so happens that Ab and I are both in this club.
I heard they pick those based on who's the best looking.
Yeah.
Like the voters. They decide
Right.
voters are like, who are the most handsome individuals on this campus?
So, I mean, I did notice that my ballot was listed 1 and Adam's was listed 1A. So I figured that was probably why that was that way.
My favorite part of the voting process is that we hand mark them all and then we drop them off in John Montgomery's office.
It's like that video. Who was that guy who made that incredibly terrible video about the baseball? Oh, Verducci. Remember, he was like, you have the weight of history in your hand when he's talking about filling out his Hall of Fame ballot. That's how Adam and I feel when we're filling out our Rammies ballot. We have to close it with a wax seal.
Yeah.
And then
you got to burn the wax onto it with a candle.
Yeah.
Fill it out in the darkness so nobody can see what you're doing. It's very exclusive.
But so anyway, the Rammies were this past Monday, and a lot of men's and women's basketball representation. I'll just roll through these really fast. Outstanding championship performance, that went to Elizabeth Scotty and Fiona Crawley, both former VideoPod guests.
Sure.
For their duo or their doubles national championship for women's tennis. Best individual performance, male and female, Austin Greaser for men's golf, former podcast. Julia Noer, gymnastics, not a podcast yet, but was she just a freshman this year? Yeah, I think so. So don't you worry, Julia. We'll get you on this pod. Best breakthrough athlete. This is somebody who has been at Carolina, but has, took a big step forward in their past season compared to previous seasons. Leaky Black from men's basketball gets it for the guys. Alyssa Usby for the women, both podcasts in the past. Biggest upset or best upset, that goes to men's basketball and their win over Baylor. Outstanding team, that went to men's basketball. Best play, that went Caleb Love's three-pointer against Duke near the end of the Final Four game. Record-breaking performance, former podcast Aaron, and really our third host, along with Bubba Cunningham, Erin Matson, for her breaking of the ACC all-time scoring record. Outstanding male newcomer and female newcomer. This can be either a freshman or a transfer. In this case, it's all transfers. Brady Manick for men's basketball on the guys' side. Eva Hodgkin and Carly Littlefield tie. Well, they were nominated as a duo. They were Cammy Bros for this, Adam. For women's basketball. And then male and female athlete, former podcast Jamie Ortega, and male athlete, former podcast Armando Baycott.
In acting or performing or whatever, there's the EGOT.
Yeah.
Where when you win Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. Yeah. So Erin Matson now has a potty and a Rammy, multiple Rammys.
Yeah, she had already won a Rammy before.
But I have to say that ERP doesn't sound quite as cool. Is there a third something that could be in there that you have to win? And if you win all these, you've completed the incredible Tar Heel Victory Award Challenge?
You need another letter.
Yeah.
I mean, like the PR. I mean,
the purr.
What is this, a pot after dark, Adam? What else could there be?
I
mean, why don't you start winning some more awards, Aaron Matson, so we can figure this out? Let's go, Jamie Ortega.
I don't feel like all ACC. Well, Jamie Ortega doesn't have a Rammy. A potty. I'm sorry, she doesn't have a potty.
Yeah.
She clearly has a Rammy.
It is established she has a Rammy.
All ACC is not enough, although we could really use a vowel.
Yeah.
Because then it could
par.
be a rap.
Yeah. I think that summed up, Adam, nicely our thoughts on things. I went to par, and Adam went to rap.
So I feel like we need one more to complete this thing that would be the most highly sought-after Carolina athletic achievement.
Adam, you know what I just remembered?
No.
That I love Pinehurst. Because, Adam, not only is Pinehurst Donald Ross's masterpiece, Pinehurst number 2, but there's Gil Hanse's stunning redesign of Pinehurst number 4. You can grab a couple wedges, take the loop on the cradle, the fun short course, unwind at the Pinehurst Brewing Company for craft beers, classic North Carolina barbecue. It's just down the hill from the fully renovated Manor Inn. There's never been a better time at the cradle of American golf. Go to pinehurst.com and plan your visit.
I liked this message from Matthew Howes, who told us that every time he hears the Pinehurst ad read, he likes to imagine it is Jones playing the intro on the piano.
That's true.
And it never fails to make Matthew smile. How do you know that's not
Yeah, I have an electronic keyboard right here with me, and I just tickle the ivories right before every Pinehurst ad read.
Also, why, Matthew, would you not think that it was me playing it on the piano while Jones reads?
No,
that would make sense.
No, I'm multifaceted, multi-dimensional, multi-talented. Adam comes up with lists about all he's got.
Now every time I hear that, I'm going to imagine you just tinkling away on your electronic keyboard.
Adam, I did get to play in the Carolina Kids Classic, the revenge of the course this year, the Carolina Kids Classic. Actually, I had a great time. And again, this was the 34th annual Carolina Kids Classic, started by Woody Durham and Mike Haley over 30 years ago. They got Coach Smith and Coach Brown at the time to be the honorary host of the event. All the money goes to the Ronald McDonald House at Chapel Hill. They've raised, and I don't know what the final total was for this year, but before this year, they were at $4.2 million that they had raised for the Ronald McDonald House through that golf tournament. How awesome is that?
And such an important event to Woody and Gene Durham. I mean, they spent...
Oh, they poured hours of their life, days of their life in total, months of their life into that. Years.
Decades. Generations.
Every moment of every day was spent on that tournament. Woody be like, Gene, I don't want to work on my boards for this Duke game. Need to only think about the Carolina Kids Classic.
But in all seriousness,
No.
Woody used to call it the Ronald House, and Woody would, anything he could do for the Ronald House or that he could get a Tar Heel coach or player to do for the Ronald House and for this event, always very important to him, because he knew that one day there would be a young golfer who'd come mighty close to getting a hole-in-one.
Okay, so back on the hole. First of all, let me tell you.
Did you get goosebumps when you walked up to the tee box?
So my foursome this year, very similar to my foursome from last year. It was me, Tyler Zeller, Colin Bates, and this year, Adam, we added a little more right-handed power as we brought Alex White, former Tar Heel pitcher, into the mix, he and Colin are really, really good. They're both really good at golf. Z and I are about the same, where we don't play a ton. Like, we like to play. We're good enough not to embarrass ourselves, but we're not really good.
Not up to Alex and Colin standards, even though Colin did have that incident that one time.
Colin, if you're listening, that was Adam who brought that up. But so Alex White, Colin Bates, both really good. So it was like the second or third hole that we played this year. So it was really early, whereas last year it was the final hole that we played, obviously, as I rode off into the sunset.
You were like on the back of the golf cart with Mickey Krzyzewski.
Yeah, that's right. We held hands.
Holding hands.
So I go up to the tee. I'm like, Alex, let me tell you this. He was like, I already know. He's like, Colin told me.
They were regaling each other with tales of the College World Series, and then Colin was like, but you know what a really good athletic feat was.
Yeah, that's right. So, Adam, I believe, what did I put the chances that I put it in the water? I put it about 90%, right? I did not put it in the water. I will say the young lady who was there, and I don't know her name, she was there because it was if you made a hole-in-one, you got something. So they got to have somebody there to manage this. And also, actually, you know what? This hole actually is a fun thing that they do. It's called the wet-dry raffle. And so if you hit it in the water, you get put into one raffle for like golf lessons and golf balls or something. And if you if you make it to the green, you get something else. So I think she was there explaining the rules of that and just making sure that everybody was correctly understood what was happening.
Were there people who didn't understand the wet, dry?
Well, no, I mean, I think
going in the water.
Well, she's got to get everybody, so she has to know what the result is to know which raffle pool to put you in.
I got you.
And so, same length, like 170 or something over water. So not an easy shot, but this young lady told me, she was like, "It's playing a little bit longer. You might want to take one extra club." So I took an extra club. And I put it over the green. Not like so far to the green that it was gone. It was on the bank, like right behind the green. But actually, Tyler Zeller hit a terrific shot. Not as good as mine as last year. Let's not fool ourselves. But Z hit a great shot, so we used his shot, and he had a natural birdie. He made the putt. And not to bore everybody with the scoring of this event, but you take the best drive, then everybody plays their own ball from that point in your foursome. And so you take your best two scores, keeping handicaps in mind. And so since Z and I had a much higher handicap, if I scored the same on a hole as Alex or Colin, more than likely we were taking my score. Because if I make it in 3, it's probably going to count as a 2 on the scorecard because I'm going to get a stroke. All that makes sense?
I think so.
Okay. So Z made the putt. So he got a 2, which ended up as a 1 on the scorecard because he got a stroke. And I missed the putt, but then made it in 3, and so got a 2. So we did really well on the hole, all really thanks to Tyler Zeller. Not me at all this time. But I think my energy really brought it all together, actually.
He was probably inspired by your story of success in the same situation.
And by the way, what a delight Tyler Zeller is, as always. Enjoyed hanging out with him. He and I were cart mates, and so we had a good 4 or 5 hours together, and just great catching up with him, and he's doing great. And
what about Alex and Colin? Are they delights?
They're terrific. Alex is back in the area and is doing great professionally, really starting to take some big steps forward in his. Remember, we saw him and talked to him when he was still in business school after his playing days were over. And in fact, he said, "When am I going to be back on that podcast?" Anytime you want.
Anytime you want. Just come by.
And then, so our kind of paired up foursome, so we all started on the same hole, but then we didn't all play together, was Drew James from Franklin Street Partners and Eric Hoots, who we know, Sean May, and it was supposed to be Jeff Lebo, but he made a last-second adjustment, and Shane Parrish, the equipment manager for Carolina basketball, was there in the other foursome. So everybody did well. It was hot, but had a good time and raised a bunch of money for the kids.
Did Shane have anything to say about this fake classes?
That he was in?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we got to the bottom of that. Thank you, Shane, for finally clearing that up.
Yeah.
You alone were the problem, sir. That's old school pod. We're not being serious. If you don't remember, then
go back like 5 years.
Yeah.
Listen to all the pods until you find it.
Yeah. The second year. Adam, anything else?
No.
Well, okay. All right, we're going to
the interview.
Okay, we're going to go to our interview with Patrick Suttus, GM for Carolina football, and come back. Adam's got a list. We've got stories, 5-second challenge, and more. All coming up on the Carolina Insider.
Excited to talk to our guest today because I don't think there's any job in the football office that has a greater importance with a lesser understanding from the general population of what that job does than general manager. And Carolina's got a new one, Patrick Suttus. Patrick, thanks so much for being with us, and tell us a little bit about what a general manager does.
Appreciate you guys having me on. General manager wears a lot of hats. I like to say a fireman put out some fires at times, but just oversee the recruiting department from the initial identification stage, evaluation, on campus, marketing, all that kind of stuff. Help out Coach Brown with the roster management, which is becoming even more difficult nowadays with the transfer portal and everything that goes on with that. And then just liaison with compliance with all the different rules the NCAA has, which in itself is an awesome task to take on. I feel like I have a good understanding for the rule book, but there's always changes the rules on a weekly, monthly basis.
Patrick, tell us a little bit. I remember when Coach Brown first got back, you were somebody that he wanted as a part of his staff. Didn't work out at that time, but then when this job came open, he came to you again. Tell us a little bit about your history with Coach Brown.
Yeah, obviously Coach Brown gave me my first real director shot when he hired me at Texas to be the director of player personnel there. So I'm forever grateful for him for taking a chance on me and really taking my career to the next step. And so I always kept a relationship with Coach Brown. He's a huge mentor for me in this business and a great friend. It was hard to turn him down the first time, but the lure of working from home in Atlanta, I worked with Coach Collins in the past, and he was another mentor of mine in this business and a great friend. So just opportunity I couldn't pass up at the time, but when the opportunity came again to work with him, I couldn't pass it up.
How did you get into this?
Man, that's a long story. I'll keep it kind of short. But, growing up, I wanted to play in college football and then realized early on in my high school career that was probably not going to be an attainable goal. I had opportunities to walk on at different places, but didn't want to be a tackling dummy. So I always kind of just knew that I wanted to be in football. At first, I thought it was the coaching side, so got my first opportunity with Coach Saban. And was a quality control guy down with the Miami Dolphins, which was a great first opportunity. Only making $27,000 living in Miami was difficult, but the opportunity to do that, I was kind of more on the coaching side, helping that out. But in the off season, I would help the scouts out with kind of the cut-ups for free agents, for draft prospects that year, and I kind of got that itch to do that. And when I got to Alabama with Coach, I kind of did a little bit of everything, was helping out on defense, helping out in ops, and then helping out in the recruiting side. And that's when I really got the drive to do that side of the ball.
So, Patrick, Nick Saban, Mac Brown, you've worked with other coaches as well. What do you try and take from these guys who are clearly incredibly successful at what they do in a job that's proven pretty difficult to be very successful? What do you try and learn and take away from those guys?
Really just being a sponge, to be honest. They're all incredibly different and they've all been successful. So I've just tried to learn as much as I can. And what I've learned, obviously been a lot of different places, is adapt to where you're at. There's no cookie cutter mold to come into an organization and say, hey, this is exactly how Coach Saban does it, or Coach Brown, or whatever. This is how we're going to do it here. I think you have to adapt to your head coach. You have to adapt to your coaching staff. You have to adapt to your players and your staff and where you're at, where you're located. So that's my mentality coming here is, we're not going to do it exactly like we did at Texas. I'm going to do it how Coach Brown wants to do it. We have a different staff, and then just being in Chapel Hill and the opportunities that UNC creates here for recruits and guys coming in, I'm going to be adaptable.
Are there any consistencies, though? Because obviously Alabama's different than Texas, different from North Carolina, different from the Dolphins, different from Georgia Tech. But are there some consistencies there that you've noticed from the ones who win at the highest level the most consistently?
I think it's attention to detail, and then I think it's obviously they all recruit at a high level. If you're not recruiting at a high level as a head coach, head of staff, it doesn't matter what plays you put in. It doesn't matter about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmies and Joes. So that's the one thing they all have in common. The great coaches I've been around, they all recruit at a high level. And obviously Coach Brown is one of the best. I say he's got a mind like an elephant. He meets you one time, meets your family one time. He's going to know their names for life.
Kind of the reverse question, in the time that you've had to get acclimated to Chapel Hill, what have you found that's unique to Carolina?
There's not one person in this town that doesn't love this place. And the uniqueness I've found so far is there's a lot of people that have been here for 20, 30 years and never leave. So I think that's an unbelievable credit to the university. It's an unbelievable credit to Chapel Hill as a whole. But just me being here a couple weeks seems like an unbelievable place to live, to go to school, and then it just seems like the fan base just they bleed Carolina blue, and so that's the exciting part.
What's been on your agenda so far? I'm sure some of it's just learning the area and the school, but what are some of the things that, as you've begun to get rolling here, that have been important for you?
The first step was getting to know the staff I have, the recruiting staff, first and foremost. Coach Brown's put together a great recruiting staff. I've enjoyed getting to know all of them and just kind of what they've done, what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, and then getting to know the coaching staff again, just getting to know them, the areas they recruited in the past, what they've been recruiting here since they've been at UNC. And then really getting my familiarity with the recruiting board and the guys that they've offered before I got here has been number one, because we recruited a lot of the same players at Tech. Obviously, we did not recruit the state of North Carolina as hard, so getting to really know this area, which has been awesome. So feel up to speed on the 23 class and the 24 class, and looking forward to getting these guys on campus in March.
Roster management, it feels like, used to be pretty easy. You got this many seniors going out, you got this many freshmen coming in, you add them up, there's how many guys you got on scholarship. It's a lot different now. How has that changed, and how do you try to manage all the various details of that?
Well, I think you have to throw you can't just have a set number, okay, here's how many spots we have. You have to throw that out the window. You really just have to recruit. Hey, let's just keep recruiting at certain positions, recruit the best players possible, knowing, especially with the added COVID year now, I mean, we got guys with 2 years but have graduated, our fifth-year guys. You don't know if they're going to be here or not. And then the goal, obviously, is we want as many players to take that next step to the next level. And obviously, the more games we win, more success they have on the field, the more draft picks we're going to have. So you always got to just have that in the back of their mind of who could leave early for the draft, who could just graduate and be done, and maybe potentially want to transfer out for their last season. So it's very difficult, but at the end of the day, you just have to keep your board big, whether that's high school board or portal board, and just attention to detail, and always have a plan A, B, C, and D.
Patrick, can you explain to us how the portal works a little bit? I mean, I understand guys put their names in and then they're available. How do you monitor it? How do you go, okay, maybe we're looking for a player at position X. Yeah, how does that then spark you into action? How do you try to keep Coach Brown informed of what's going on there? Yeah,
the difference with the portal, the biggest difference with the portal as far as high school recruiting, it's all sped up. Guys are in the portal and they can make a decision within a couple days. Or back when they were entering, in December, you're trying to get them in school for January, so everything's just sped up. I know it's a process a lot, for the academic staff, admissions staff, just trying to get these guys rushed through. But you're trying to get as much detail as possible as far as character, work ethic, all that kind of things. And it's hard because you can't just call the coach of the previous school and say, what did you think about this player? Because they might dog the player because they're pissed he's leaving, right? Yeah. So, a lot of times in the portal, it's always good to recruit guys that you maybe recruited in high school that you know a lot. It's always good to recruit guys that have film that you can see them playing college games. But at the end of the day, we monitor that thing, 20 times a day, on it consistently. Luckily, there's some Twitter handles out there that tweet it as well, which has been helpful. So we jump on that, and my staff and I just, as soon as there's someone that hits the portal that maybe it's a position of need, we watch them, we show them the coaches, and then from there we decide whether we want to proceed with recruiting or not. And then it's about getting the transcript in and all that stuff that goes into it. I know this is probably a dumb question, but is it just like a website? Like, what is the portal physically? Like, what is it? It is a website. It's high security to get in. The issue with the website, and hopefully NCAA will change a little bit, it only gives you the player name and then really how many years they have left when they enter the portal. You have to do all the research on the back end of, okay, how many years of eligibility does he have left, what position he plays, how many games he started, how many games he's played in, all that kind of information. So that's why you have to have a big staff, recruiting staff, to do all that the background information before you can even get it to the coach.
The last 3 to 5 years or so seems like a time of huge change in college football. And you've worked with some extremely successful coaches who I'm guessing feel like they pretty much had figured out how to do it. How have you seen those very successful coaches adapt to all the changes that have been required in the last few years?
Well, I mean, it's adapt or die. I mean, I think you see a lot of college coaches that don't want to handle this new direction college is going, that are trying to jump in the NFL, or some might just retire or whatever, go sell insurance. But that's why I know, working for Coach Brown, he's always forward thinking. It's never about complaining about the new changes and woe is me. It's okay, here's the new changes, how can we attack this going forward? And so Coach Brown has a plan, the coaching staff and myself have a plan moving forward. Obviously there's more changes coming down the pipe, I assume, and you just got to adapt, because at the end of the day it's football. It's about helping kids, it's about developing kids, finding the right kids for your program, and then obviously winning games. That's never going to change.
So NIL is like the Wild West still, I think, even here after about a year or so full of its impact on college athletics. How have you tried to get your arms around it? How does Carolina try to best use this as a tool that can help it moving forward?
Yeah, I think first off, they were, the donors fan base were forward thinking with the Heels for Life. One of the first programs to do that, so that's huge moving forward. We can kind of advise our guys as far as making sure that they're educated as far as the tax implications, and we try to sell them, hey, your brand is your ball, so the better you play on the field, the better your brand's going to be, and the more opportunities for you with an NIL space. But just getting here a short time, we have a lot of players that are using that to their advantage, and I know that will continue to grow. And for us, it's about educating, and then just showing the power that the UNC degree and people that graduate from here that have big time jobs across the country, and how they can help out our current players and future players. And again, right now it's an education piece. Again, this thing is just going to continue to grow and figure out how to navigate the space. So we're just trying to help our players as much as we can.
You're doing a job that I think a lot of people look at from the outside and think, oh man, it'd be cool to do that. And they don't see all the other jobs you did on your way up to this job. What's the difference in all the people who say they want to do this kind of thing and the people who are actually willing to do the things it takes to get to where you are?
Yeah, and I tell everybody that's trying to get into this, because I get a lot of calls, from people that, whether on the coaching side and looking to jump into this side of it, or work in high school, or just student assistants that are thinking about this is a career that they want to pursue. It's definitely a lifestyle. Like you have to live this, because you're going to work a lot of hours. You're going to be up here more than you're going to see your family. The great thing about Coach Brown is a family atmosphere. All the families are around, kids are running around the office all the time. So that's another reason I wanted to work for Coach Brown, because my family is important to me. And so that's the biggest thing I tell people that want to get in this job. And obviously there's other jobs across the country, being a doctor or traveling salesman or whatever, where you don't see your family. But this is definitely a lifestyle. You have to embrace it. You better, one, love what you do. You better love football, and then you better love being able to help young men kind of grow, as players and as men off the field.
Do you have a favorite kind of time period on this journey that you've been on? Is there one that you look back on and say, man, that was really important when that happened, or that was key for me developmentally, or just, man, that was a lot of fun when I was at school X or place X?
No, to be honest, each place has been unique for me. And like I said, I've taken different bits and pieces from each place and adapted. And For me, I've just enjoyed the growth. And again, when I was single and living in Austin and Scottsdale, obviously a great time. And now that I got a family, I've enjoyed the places I've gotten to live with my family, my wife, and my 2 kids. And that's, again, the biggest selling point of coming here is I know they're going to have a great time here when I'm in the office working all the time, because there's so much to do. The family atmosphere, the people here are just amazing. So that's, again, that there's not one place I said, that's the reason I've gotten here. I think every place has gotten me to this point.
What's your best? Everybody thinks I've got this glamorous job with the Miami Dolphins and I'm driving my Bentley down to South Beach every day, and in reality I'm making $27,000 story.
I will say that I lived at the Quick Trip down the corner, and that's where I got all my food and supplies. I do remember going down to South Beach one time with a couple of the players, and just seeing the crowds that would gather around them trying to walk 10 feet would take us like an hour with all the autographs and stuff they would have to sign. So yeah, working for Miami, only going down to South Beach twice, that was an experience.
What's next now for you and for the Tar Heels? What's important here in the next couple of weeks as they close in on spring ball here, getting started soon?
Yeah, obviously for the team, it's spring ball and developing the guys and kind of seeing where we're at. And then for us as a recruiting staff is getting as many of our top guys on campus as possible. And it's big for them to be able to watch spring practice to kind of see where we're at, see where we're going. I've been incredibly impressed with the size and the amount of good athletes we have on this team. I know they've done an incredible job recruiting the past couple of years. So we're just trying to add to that, get these guys on campus throughout the spring. Then we'll hit the road. The coaches will hit the road for the eval period in April and May. Find more players to look at, and then get a bunch of guys to camp this summer for another evaluation tool, which is huge, getting guys on campus and seeing them live at your camp.
Great stuff from Patrick. Appreciate his time and his interview and all our interviews. Brought to you by the Independent Insurance Agents of North Carolina. Texting while driving takes your eyes off the road. How long, Adam?
Around about 5 seconds.
Approximately 5 seconds. And at highway speeds, that's like driving the length of a football field with your eyes closed. Trusted choice, Independent Insurance Agents of North Carolina. I want you to stay safe behind the wheel, so put down that phone while you're driving, and let's have a hands-free NC. To learn more, find an agent near you. Visit trustedchoice.com/GoHeels. Trustedchoice.com/GoHeels. Okay, that leads us to the 5-second challenge. Adam on the hot seat today. And Adam, I have to tell you, this one on the scale of hard to easy. The only thing that's going to get you is the time on this one. If I fully believe that.
Okay.
Adam, the Tar Heels advanced to the national championship game in basketball this year.
Right, I remember that.
But did not win.
Yes, that's right.
One of 6 times, Adam, that the Tar Heels have been national runner-up. Adam, your 5-second challenge. Can you name the 6 years that the Tar Heels have been the national runners-up? You have 5 seconds, starting now.
2016, 1981, 1977.
Time. Okay, so Adam got 3 of the 6. 3 of the 6. You have a little more time now, Adam. Do you want to guess the other? Or first of all, one of the other 3.
1946.
Okay, you know one of the other 2. It just happened, Adam.
Oh, I didn't even know that one counted.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one that just happened, 2022.
Okay, so there's one more.
Tar Heels lost to Kansas. It was in that 67, 8, 9 range.
Yes, it was.
Was it? Oh, boy. Was it 8?
68. That's correct. So Tar Heels went to the Final Four 3 consecutive years, 1967, 68, 69. That's what Adam's talking about. Fell in the semifinal in 67 and 69. Advanced to the championship game, but lost to UCLA. This was in that stretch where UCLA won, what was it, 7 in a row or something like that. Adam, pretty good. Now, I thought the reason for me to choose this today was I thought we might then look at what the Tar Heels did the next year after all of these national runners-up. So we know what happened in 81 and in 16. 81 to 82 was the title. 16 to 17 was the title. 68 to 69, we just talked about, was another Final Four appearance, but Carolina didn't win. This was also in the time period where they did the Final Four consolation game.
Yeah, something that basically everyone hated, but yet still took a long time to get rid of, which seems to be the case a lot of the time.
Right. I mean, they were still doing that. We've talked about this before, like in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And they even, at one point, because it's always tricky when you're looking at like Carolina's all-time tournament stuff, they did like a regional consolation game for a very short amount of time. Who would want that?
No one. Absolutely no one.
Yeah. A terrible idea. Okay. Now, obviously, we're going in the Wayback Machine here, and it's not particularly relevant to today, but 46 and then the next year in 1947. So in 1947, Adam, the Tar Heels finished 19-8 and did not go to the NCAA tournament. Do you know who the head coach was then?
Nope.
Tom Scott. Come on, Adam. What's your problem? First game that year, I love the first game against the Cherry Point Marines. That's down in Jacksonville area.
Better watch out.
They won that game. Tar Heels did 63-29. They played Haynes Hosiery and Catawba. Those were their first 3 games of the season.
So good schedule strength RPI that year.
Yeah. And then, Adam, the only year we're missing here is 77 to 78.
Things didn't go as well that year.
No, they didn't. That was the year the Tar Heels finished 23-8. Certainly not a bad season, but lost in the ACC tournament to Wake Forest in the quarterfinal round, and then lost to San Francisco in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And that was Phil Ford's final game, right?
Yep.
So that was in Tempe, Arizona. Tar Heels lost 68-64 to San Francisco.
Tempe, Arizona, not on the list of NCAA tournament city rankings that we recently did.
Not yet. Although it's close enough to Phoenix that it would have to be high since the Tar Heels won there. Adam, how about your list?
What's on the top of Adam's list? Brought to you by Top of the Hill, where Tar Heels come to celebrate.
Okay. Yes. How about it?
Speedy list.
I thought that we should make mention, since we talked about NIL on the last episode, the Nigel Pack situation at Miami I thought was fascinating and kind of a sign of the times of where we're headed, I guess, unfortunately. Nigel Pack played for Kansas State this past year, and evidently he's good, although I'll be honest with you, I never heard of him before he entered the transfer portal. He announced via a company that he had decided to transfer to Miami. He will also receive a car and $800,000 over 2 years through an NIL deal with that company. Is that where we are now?
Well, at what point do you have a high school kid who, when you're recruiting him, you're not even talking to the parents or the high school coach or the AAU coach? You're just talking to his marketing company, who will lay down the demands of what he will receive to commit to your school. I mean, this is, as Nate Wood said very well the other day and explained the other day, I mean, there are some things about NIL that absolutely make sense, should have happened a long time ago. Crazy that it hadn't happened, and that it is right that that happened. And then there's stuff like this, Adam, that is just totally different from what I think college athletics is.
I think the example Nate Wood used is going to be the one that probably I use for the next 5 years. Of course, Jamie Ortega should be able to run a camp.
Right.
That is different than Nigel Pack having a company announce his transfer with complete financial details of said transfer. And we've mentioned on here before that you need to keep an eye on Miami. We were more talking about football. But it seems like now they've got so much money that it's spilled over to basketball. And those are the terms of their agreement with young Nigel.
All that money from the health system, quote unquote, down there.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
We need a health system. A pod health system.
Yeah, well, we give you health insurance, Adam, for your full-time employment here on the pod.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Well, maybe that'll be a topic on the pod cruise. We'll get to that. I liked this email from Michael Gaskins. And, Jones, I want to know your estimation of the percentage chance that this agreement Michael is referencing happened when the sun was out. Hey, guys, writes Michael. Speaking of tattoos.
Yeah, so Susan Yao on the tattoo train, of course.
Right. My friend Adam, not me, I don't think, and I promised to get a tattoo of whoever knocked Duke out of the tournament. Yes, any team, says Michael. The hatred runs deep. He's happy to say we have an appointment and will send pictures. So excited to get a UNC one instead of a Spartan, Raider, or Hog. Woo, says Michael.
What a serendipitous moment for Michael.
So what do you think the chances are that this agreement was made in the daylight?
Maybe he just dislikes Duke so much that he was fully clear-headed and made this decision.
I say 1%. 99% this was made at a pot after dark type scenario where Michael and his friend were like, I hate those Devils so much, I'll get a tattoo of whoever knocks them out of the tournament. Right here on my bicep.
Did it have to be? See, now I would love to know some more of the details of this. Like, let's say it was Arkansas. Would it have had to have been like the Arkansas logo, or could it be any type of Razorback? You know what I mean?
I think it has to be the logo.
The logo of the team.
I think so. I mean, it can't be like Porky Pig to represent Arkansas.
The chances, Adam, that you make this bet.
0% based on history.
Yeah, that you make this bet and it turns out to be the Tar Heels as a massive Tar Heel fan.
What do you think the worst one to get? Who did Duke play in the first round?
Cal Santa Barbara, something like that?
What are they?
They're the Gauchos, but I don't know if it was them.
Let's say it was. And then
Cal State Northridge.
That's
and I don't there. Well, I guess I could look.
If only someone had invented something that had all the information you needed and you just hit some buttons. So you definitely have the Spartan. You've got the Red Raider. You've got the Hog. You've got the Tar Heel, of course. And then their first round opponent, which as we know was
Cal State Fullerton.
Oh, the Titans.
Yeah.
So what would you get for them? They don't really have
they just have the word Titans as their logo.
Yeah, I've never seen the actual Titan.
Well, according to Michael, he doesn't care. He would have gotten anything.
So what do you think would be the worst one to get that you'd have to
can I just look through all the teams that are in the tournament here? I got to say, I think getting the crazy-looking face of the Purdue guy, I'm not sure.
Purdue Pete?
Yeah.
That'd be weird. He's weird in person.
Maybe you put the train on there, though.
Yeah, I'd get the train. I don't want Purdue Pete on my body, if you know what I mean.
Texas A&M Corpus Christi, the Islanders. That one might be a little difficult to explain, although I'm not sure they had a great chance to beat the Blue Devils this past season.
I wouldn't want the Providence Friar.
What if it had been NC State? Like what? I mean, they have
reality.
They have to be in the tournament.
Jones, come on. Woo, what if it was Peter Pan, Jones?
But you understand my point. Like, what if it
kind
was,
of?
Like, what if it
a
was
team you hated?
Yeah. What if it was Kentucky?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I would assume you wouldn't want, because then you run the danger of, then they're like, oh, there's Michael Gaskins, huge NC State fan.
Or like Michael Gaskins sees another Kentucky fan like at a restaurant or something.
On the pod cruise.
The guy's like, C-A-T-S, cats, am I right? And Michael Gaskins is like, I hate the Wildcats.
Well, that's like, I have a similar scenario.
Really?
So my son.
So I was talking to Big Grits and we agreed.
So my son growing up like Cam Newton because he was the Panthers quarterback at the time. And so he had gotten an Auburn Cam Newton jersey, not because he likes Auburn, but because he liked Cam Newton at the time. And so at one point, he and I were at a Panthers game, and he wore the Cam Newton Auburn jersey. And he had, I mean, I bet 15 people said War Eagle to him while he was wearing that. And he was like, what? What are they saying? What does that mean? and they were all like very nice. They'd be like, hey, little dude, War Eagle, like try to give it. And he'd be like, huh?
Roll Tide?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't know what they were talking about. So I do think you run that risk.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it worked out for Michael Gaskins.
I can't believe it. I mean, that, again, the chances of that, if I didn't know and trust Michael Gaskins to send us a legitimate email, I would question the validity of that. That's unbelievable.
That was Jones who said that, not me. You're going to believe it
I
when
just said that I do trust Michael Gaskins, but I'm saying if it was someone that we didn't have a pod relationship with,
right,
that I would say, man, I don't know. That doesn't sound like, that sounds too crazy to have happened.
Let's go back to Jenna Reynolds, who you might remember pretends like she thought of changing the name of Late Night to Live Action with Hubert Davis, which is what we thought of.
Yeah, that's our idea, just like the First Down Lasers.
Right. She
and
says
Cameo.
Or Cammy Bro.
Ooh.
Remember when I thought of that? Jenna says that her name is pronounced Jenna, which we knew.
Get on it, Adam.
Yeah. Jenna says you can't just TM my idea. Jenna, do you not understand how TM works?
In fact, you know what? I'm going to TM the name Jenna. You can't even go by that anymore. Now, Adam and I now own that name, Jenna.
Jenna says she at least demands some sort of NIL proceeds. That is not at all how it works. Let me explain trademark law to you.
Yeah.
Because
we can get that one, the lady who made the signs for Mike Krzyzewski's 1,000th win.
Yeah.
She's a
she and I are
trademark
two of the
expert.
foremost trademark patent attorneys in this great nation that we call the United States of America. Here's the way it works. Someone comes up with an idea, and then we say TM, and that means the idea belongs to us.
Yeah, then it's just ours.
It's kind of similar to, let's say, hypothetically, you do an interview with a public figure,
right? And
then someone just takes all the quotes from that interview and makes it into a news article. Right. That's very similar to the same type of thing. And so that is why we TM'd Live Action with Hubert Davis. And in fact, when we mentioned that to Hubert Davis and he said that was a great idea, we were like, I know, we were just talking, trying to think of ways we could help the basketball program. Yeah. And Jones and I came up with that together.
He said, whoever came up with that idea, I'm going to give courtside seats to for life.
Yeah. And Jones was like, but coach, I already have those.
Yeah. I said, I'll let Adam have my guess.
Yeah. And so
here we are.
He was like, did anybody help you with this? And we said, it was Gina. And he was like, oh, well, if her name was Jenna, I'd be in on that. But at that time, we didn't know.
Yeah.
So thanks, Jenna, for getting us those courtside tickets and for the great idea for Live Action with Hubert Davis, which is coming soon to you. Noah Sasson sent us a very impressive email.
Yeah, we're going to use that during story time. That'll be a little mini, one of our story time trios today, so that's coming.
I just want everyone to know that came with a video that you'll never be able to see, but Jones and I got to see.
Yep.
Now, Pod Cruise. Jones, I feel like this is going to happen.
This, Adam, has exploded. Pod Cruise has exploded.
We've got
not literally, thankfully.
Yeah.
We're already like dooming the Pod Cruise before it's even started.
No one's worried about that. You're having too much fun on the Pod Cruise. We've received an email from a cruise company.
This is legitimate.
That is going to reach out to the GAA and try to coordinate the details of the Pod Cruise.
Yeah, that's legitimate.
The phrase sailing the Mediterranean was used.
It's a long way to go.
Hey, show off your tattoos of your various teams that you support.
This went from taking off from Charleston to going to Greece.
Yeah, when someone sent us an email or something about how doable it was to leave from Charleston and go on like a 3-day cruise, and I thought, that sounds about right. Next email that comes in, so we sail the Mediterranean with a company that already exists.
Yeah, we're going to take off from the eastern coast of Italy and Amalfi Coast.
Everyone gets their own villa. An incredible amount of suggestions for things that should occur on the Pod Cruise. I mean, these are the things that you can repeat, obviously. Not the after dark shenanigans.
Yeah, who knows how many tattoos will be going out after dark on the pod cruise.
Yeah, we should have a like pod cruise tattooist. Massive board game pod trivia playoffs, competition for best in-person story time. I like this one. Footloose dance-off.
Yeah, a lot of Skittles eating competition suggestions.
Bingo for fun prizes, but nothing NIL because we want them to get what they should, but
how does Adam pronounce blank? Tag team ice cream station. Big Grits lookalike contest. Everyone would win, though. I mean, he's like a chameleon. He looks like everybody.
Can you tell the difference between Adam and Big Grits? I mean, no one would win. So just a lot of questions about whether Miles is coming on the pod cruise. What's your feelings on that?
Can you hug the wind, Adam? Live Roadhouse Challenge. I like that. We've gotten concert ideas from Rebecca Black, the RZA, Eric Church, Lil Baby, and Dub Baby. All of these things are very doable. A lot of suggestions about having a Freddie Kiger. Who knew that? I mean, I knew everyone loved Freddie, but I didn't know. I mean, that was an early guest on the pod. We've had Freddie on actually twice, but have like a Freddie, like an evening with Freddie.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Imagine like Ship Freddie.
The shackles are off, baby. Now, finally, he's going to let that personality shine.
I'm about to not talk about heartwarming things in history. Okay, that part of the cruise is over now. Former potty winners join the cruise to be interviewed about their experience as Tar Heels and as potty winners. That would be a big hit. Imagine a panel discussion with potty winners.
Kate Leslie, make your own pod T-shirt station. Finally, we can get those pod shirts. We just have to we just got to get the labor. You just have to do it yourself.
All we have to do is have a cruise ship sailing through the Mediterranean with us on board for free, and then we get pod T-shirts.
Yeah. A lot of potty award suggestions, like the live potties. That would be electric.
Unlimited supply of cookout potty shakes.
5-second challenge trivia contest. Got those from a bunch of people. Great ideas.
That'd be fun.
What is this? Impressions of Jones and Adam. Guys, I'm not sure that we can get like Brad Pitt and Denzel Washington to come to the pod cruise. Not sure we can make that happen.
I liked remote control LS tractor obstacle course.
Oh, that's a good one.
Perform little tasks like move a pile of dirt from A to B. Sorry, guys, we're going to need the Lido deck right now for our dirt moving contest.
Pin the tail on Mr. Goose Honkers. A lot of suggestions of golfing with me, like putt-putt or golfing.
Yeah.
I mean, if everybody wants to get embarrassed, that's fine.
I liked Dying to Win said a meet and greet with Aaron Matson, and then we all take turns hitting field hockey balls at Jones Angel.
Casey's story time every morning over bottomless mimosas and breakfast buffet. Get the day started right. Like that.
Just sounds like a normal day at the pod.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need a cruise for that. We got the mimosa station right now.
We already do that on land. Let's try to make this a little different.
A cuss off with Adam. Guys, you don't want to get beaten in a cuss off with Adam.
You want to lose to Jones in a golf off and me in a cuss off? I mean, why don't you pick something you got a chance to win?
Woo.
So,
all great ideas. Great ideas.
I feel like there's at least 2 or 3 people who are going to come on the pod cruise. What about movies shown in the movie theater on the ship are all Roadhouse Challenge films, including Hallmark Christmas ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And ones that have been nominated but not yet watched. I feel like we're weeks, months away from the pod cruise. Years? Decades?
Well,
about as long as Woody and Gene devoted to the Ronald House.
Even if we don't do a pod cruise.
What? Don't speak so negatively into the universe.
We got to figure out some kind of pod event, Adam. Mimosa stations.
Yeah,
that's
pod
the key.
cruise.
That's the key.
Pod cruise. Okay, that's all.
What a bunch of great suggestions, though.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even need a cruise director because we've crowdsourced the activities.
Yeah.
Also, you and I are going to be busy. I don't know that we're going to have time to go on any shore excursions, because we're going to be too busy with all the fun activities.
Yeah, I want to go get on that glacier and ride with the sled dogs.
Yeah, well, watch out. Brianna will drop her phone in the glacier.
Quick reminder about our friends at UNC Health, by the way, also the presenting sponsor of the Carolina Kids Classic this past week, which when I was doing my opening remark, I said Carolina Kids Club a couple of times instead of Kids Classic. It was just natural.
You'd been out in the sun.
It is our Champions Watch, brought to you by UNC Health, dedicated to caring for champions of all kinds to help keep you in the game and at your very best. You can see their lineup at unchealthcare.org/sports. Adam, I honestly don't. Is anybody competing this weekend with exams?
Women's lacrosse is at the ACC tournament. It opens today, Friday.
They're top seed, right?
That's correct, and they're in Notre Dame for the women's lacrosse ACC tournament. I don't think I would have guessed that, but that's where they are.
Cradle of American women's lacrosse.
Yeah, so Tar Heels, of course, with a good chance to win that title, so keep an eye on that this weekend.
Before I get to the stories, Adam, quick reminder that multiple people reminded us that you and you alone are an idiot and that Rick Fox was born in Canada.
You know what's weird is when I was sitting here, I was going to say Rick Fox, but then I was like, no, he's from Nassau.
Well, I 100% think of Rick Fox as the Bahamas.
Right.
Right.
But something in my brain was telling me Canada, but I thought that was like old man brain that doesn't really know what it's talking about and gets Canada confused with the Bahamas because they're so similar.
Right.
So I didn't say it, and that turned out to be wrong. That's how you missed the question.
We did get a classy follow-up email from Eric, who started all of this Canada discussion. He was not one of the ones who called Adam an idiot.
That's right.
He was.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, he was much classier about it. He did say, though, he said Rick Fox is the only Tar Heel player that he is aware of that is Canadian. He said he played high school basketball in Indiana, if his memory serves him correctly, but he is originally Canadian. He said, you are correct. Greg Newton and R.J. Barrett, also Canadian. Their decision to attend the school up the road can be chalked up to everybody is able to make at least one mistake in their life. He said the Heels have recruited some Canadians in the recent past, including Andrew Wiggins and Caleb Houston, but they landed elsewhere. So, interesting Canadian info from Eric. He says he agrees with us on pretty much everything except that Canada and Alaska are pretty much the same thing. Did we say that? You probably said that.
I think I did.
That doesn't sound like something I'd say.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would agree. Perhaps they're not exactly the same.
He did say that, and more importantly, that roundabouts are great. In fact, our family rule is you have to do the double loop every time you hit them.
No.
I'm telling you, just in my daily cycle now of where I drive, I'm hitting some roundabouts.
They're becoming, I mean, I wouldn't say they're spreading like Buc-ee's, but they're spreading.
Okay, before we finish things up, take that extra lap around the roundabout. But while you do so, make sure you adjust your volume. Here comes an ad. Adam, we have a couple of stories that we want to get to today. Two of which have to do with the NCAA tournament. One of which we just brought some nice early 90s nostalgia to us, so you knew we had to go after it. Number one is from Noah Sasson, and this isn't truly a story time, so we're not going to throw Mr. Goosehawkers underneath this. This is just an email from Noah, but it has some story feel to it, and then we'll go through two full, proper Mr. Goosehawker story times. So Noah sent this in, Adam, and he said, like the listener who promised she'd get a tattoo, that of course being Susan Yao, if the Tar Heels made the Sweet 16, Noah, too, made a ridiculous proclamation. That's Noah T-O-O, not Noah T-W-O. There's not like Noah 1 and Noah 2 out there that I'm aware of. Noah told his friends in a group text he would eat a sock if the Tar Heels made the Final Four. He said this happened on Selection Sunday. He didn't like the draw with Baylor and UCLA and Purdue and Kentucky looming around the corner. Adam, I've said this before on the pod. I do think one thing people make a mistake in when they look at the bracket is assuming you have to play all the good teams. Although the Tar Heels did end up having to play Baylor and UCLA in this particular setup, both of which, as we now know and knew then, were very good teams.
Underrated break. St. Peter's beating Purdue because I think the Tar Heels felt like Purdue really was the best team they had played all year.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
And I think that because that's what they said.
yeah. I mean, I think it's – you and I have said this. It's silly to discredit the Tar Heels' Final Four run because they played St. Peter's in the round of 8 because they played plenty of good teams to get there. But there's no doubt that St. Peter's was not the typical opponent that you would see in a regional final. Obviously that's the case.
That was the underrated break. The underrated in the other way was, as we've said, beating UCLA in that game.
UCLA was a Final Four caliber team, no question.
Well, and I went back and watched that game over sometime recently. I mean, just some ridiculous shots in that game that they made.
Yes,
They're-
both teams.
Yes.
And I mean,
That was a Final Four championship type game.
yes. Back to Noah's email. He actually attached some of the screenshots of his text messages for us to confirm. He said, well, we made it, and I was left with the decision about whether to follow through with my end of the bargain. I definitely didn't want to, but if we ended up losing to Duke, I just knew it would be my fault, and my friends would never forgive me if they indeed even stayed my friends. I had to go through with it. I decided I would make a good faith effort to eat part of a sock. Since my promise never specified I would eat the whole sock. He did attach the video evidence with my wife and kids as bemused witnesses. Adam, here's something that I find interesting. Had the Tar Heels not been matched up with Duke, I wonder if Noah would have gone, you know what, guys, we were just messing around. I'm not going to eat that sock.
Look, we're just playing Arkansas. It'll be fine.
Right. One way or the other.
Yeah.
I really think that since it was Duke, you had no choice.
I think that amped up everyone's stress level to the point that they were willing to do anything within their power, including eating a sock,
Yeah.
to make this happen.
Right? I mean, but don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that if you were playing Texas Tech, I think Noah would have been like, you know, guys, we're all friends here. I'm not going to eat a sock.
Well, think of like past Final Four, like when the Tar Heels play Oregon
Right.
in the national semifinals, you're not like, well, I'm going to eat this sock. The video was impressive. He was
Got a little honey?
Yeah.
Put it on the sock?
put a little condiments on there. I feel like Noah would be a good friend. Somebody who would follow through on this to eat a sock. That's somebody you want to be your foxhole buddy.
What do you think the end journey of that sock was, Adam?
Noah, we don't want videos.
I
or
don't want
pictures
video of that.
No.
A sock. Tattoos and socks.
Would you rather get the
Oh.
tattoo or eat the sock?
I mean, a tattoo's forever.
Sock could be.
Eating a sock. I feel like the potential health downside of getting a sock like tangled in your intestines. I think I'd do the tattoo.
Really? I think I'd do the sock.
I think.
I'd see.
Here's the real key. Don't make any crazy bets.
Yeah, let's be honest. I wouldn't do either. Jones and I are never like sitting around the pod studio like, I'll tell you what, if the Tar Heels make the Final Four, I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
The Tar Heels beat Pitt tonight, Adam. You'll get a tattoo.
NCAA. Don't bet on it.
Okay. Adam, 2 stories. One about the NCAA tournament, one not about the NCAA tournament. And we still have a bunch of NCAA tournament stories, which we will continue to get to. This one comes from Alex Thompson, longtime listener to the pod. Alex's email titled, "Do you like traveling with Duke fans? Not a bot." So let's bring up Mr. Goose Honkers because Alex's story starts like this. This all started when a friend of mine from high school got engaged in December 2020. The wedding wasn't going to be held until Memorial Day weekend of 2022.
Whoa.
So it still hasn't happened.
So they weren't 100% sure they liked each other, but they were pretty sure.
Yeah. That's a long engagement. You're talking 18 months.
This is like a high school baseball commitment. Like I'm a freshman, but I do plan to enroll in college in 4 years at this school.
That gave my other friends and me plenty of time to plan an epic bachelor trip for the future groom. He grew up in Durham, is a lifelong Duke fan, went to Duke as an undergrad, and is currently in Duke Medical School. To cap it all off, he just found out he will be completing his medical residency at Duke as well. So, this dude, as Duke can get. Duke. Dookie Duke. Being from North Carolina and a true Dookie that he is a huge college basketball fan. When we realized the Final Four was going to be in New Orleans, it seemed like the perfect situation to go watch some great basketball, no matter who was going to be playing, and have a little New Orleans fun too. I like this, Adam. I like that setup of, you know what? No matter who's in it, let's go watch, have a fun Final Four. Can be the bachelor party. We'll have a great time. Great idea.
I like having some structure to the weekend.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
So
if it had been in Indianapolis, you think they would have done the same thing?
No, of course not.
Yeah.
But I mean, it all came together.
We could go see Big Grit's childhood home.
We can go see the Mascot Hall of Fame. It's nearby. It was decided fall of 2021, before the college basketball season even started. Flights, hotels, tickets were all purchased for the future groom. His 9 Dookie friends, and yours truly, a lifelong Tar Heel. As the basketball season progressed, it seemed like Duke was having the kind of season that was potential of a Final Four appearance. Carolina, on the other hand, was not. What fun for the future groom, right? Duke moving along the NCAA tournament towards Alex would like to remind us, not a record 17th Final Four, and he'd get to see it live with 10 of his closest friends. Serendipity, says Alex. The second time I think that word has been used on the pod today. But not so fast, my friend, says Alex. Here comes Carolina. After wins over Marquette and Baylor, the thought crept into our minds. After a win over UCLA, Duke already advancing, all that was standing in between Carolina and Duke, the matchup of a lifetime, the Peacocks. The wedding party group chat blew up. Could this really happen? What are the odds? Our collective Tobacco Road nerves were at an all-time high. The Heels dismantled the Peacocks and earned a trip to as Alex reminded us, record 21st Final Four, and we all knew who they would be playing. As the trip to New Orleans got closer, the future groom and I decided that for the health of the friendship, we'd keep the smack talk to a minimum. The two of us had the same flight out of RDU, and to the surprise of no one, we met at the airport to find each other wearing our respective team colors.
That's going to be a great scene in the movie.
Oh, yeah. Along the trip, we got multiple comments and jokes like, wait, you guys are friends? How in the world is this friendship going to work after this weekend? To which our answer to both was, we have no idea. The game on Saturday was nerve-wracking intense, as we all know. Due to a connection through one of the other guys in our group, the future groom got a seat upgrade. Luckily, we didn't have to sit together and hear the other person's cheers as the game came down the stretch. As we know, Keels missed that last 3, RJ got the rebound, and Carolina pulled off the greatest rivalry win of all time. I screamed at the top of my lungs, took pictures and videos from my upper deck seat, and then, Adam, what a so classy move by everybody here. That was it. The rest of the night, walking around New Orleans with my Duke fan friends. I only spoke about what had just occurred when spoken to. I have to give my buddies some credit as well. While obviously disappointed with the loss, they were #so classy as well and congratulated me on the win multiple times. I bet as that night got longer, those congratulations got a little more emotional. Let me tell you something, Alex. Just want to say that I don't like the Tar Heels, but, man, I'm happy for you, man.
I've never said this before. I kind of like Hubert Davis.
Is it weird that I'm going to be cheering for you guys on Monday? Is that weird?
Have you got a Carolina shirt that I can wear? I might want to wear one. Flash forward to Monday. I never said that.
I'm going to do a hurricane. Alex did give us one little backtrack to the story as well. He said the day before the game, the future groom and a few of us on the trip got down to New Orleans a little early and played a round of golf. We mixed in some friendly competition, playing 2v2 for some good old-fashioned bragging rights. He said, unfortunately, he was not able to hit any shots. You know I read this part of it. Any shots over the water from It says 165. I think it was more like 175. To 2 inches from the cup like Jones. And so the future groom and his playing partner were victorious. As we were walking to the car, he said maybe that win was a good omen for the weekend. But as Alex said, as we know, that was his only win that weekend.
What if I took up golf and hit a hole-in-one in like the first month? Would you even do the pod anymore?
No. That'd be the end of our friendship. That'd be it.
We wouldn't be as so classy as Alex and the other
that's
groomsmen.
Right. Okay, good one, Alex. Appreciate the email. All right, last one. It comes from Dawn Lucas. Adam?
We are not relations.
And Dawn's story. So this one doesn't have to do with the tournament. Dawn's story starts like this. I grew up in Danville, Virginia, just north of the North Carolina border. Although a lot of people rooted for UVA or Virginia Tech, by the early 1990s, Ralph Sampson. Where was Ralph Sampson from, Adam?
Is he from Harrisonburg?
If only I had a shirt that would confirm. Ralph Sampson was long gone from Virginia, and Carolina and Duke were ruling the college basketball world. Some kids I knew growing up had parents who were alumni of one school or the other. Others claimed their favorite. You know how it goes. I don't think this happens anymore, but in the 1990s, the Dean Dome hosted numerous big-name concerts. In 1992, my dad, a Carolina grad, asked me if I'd like to go see an upcoming concert there. He'd be happy to take me. She would like us to know this was entirely his idea. And so, the first concert I ever attended was Jodeci and Boyz II Men opening, mind you, for Hammer at the Dean Dome. April 4th, 1992.
The most surprising thing about this story to me is that I didn't go to that concert. When I hear you say it now, I'm like, yeah, young Adam wants to go to that concert, but for some reason I didn't.
You telling me Jodeci and Boyz II Men are there?
I mean, Boyz II Men was opening
For Hammer.
for Hammer, who had already dropped the MC by then. So we're in like the too legit to quit era, I think.
Yeah, this was probably on the downside of Hammer's career.
It was still high enough.
But on
to
the
get-
upside of the Boyz II Men career.
Yeah, you're catching the Boyz II Men comment on the way to the sky.
I was in the 6th grade. I went with my best friend, also in the 6th grade, unfortunately a huge Duke fan. My parents, both in their early 40s at the time, and my brother, who was in kindergarten and fell asleep. I'm pretty sure it's the only concert I've ever attended with my parents. Sure, Dawn.
Other than Jimmy Buffett last week at Walnut Creek.
The concert coincided with the men's Final Four, which in hindsight seems bizarre. Carolina had already been eliminated by Ohio State in the Sweet 16, but still, I guess Final Four watch parties at the Smith Center were not a thing back then. Her point is, if Carolina had been in the Final Four, what would they have done?
Well, I don't think people watched the Final Four at the Smith Center then because you didn't have the video boards.
Oh, yeah, they weren't even in there.
So I think, like, I don't remember 1991 whether there was or wasn't.
92.
I know,
you're
but
talking
I'm
about the
saying
Final
when Carolina
Four.
was in the
Gotcha,
Final
gotcha.
Four in 91. I don't think there was a watch party at the Smith Center. If you went and that's incorrect, let us know.
So, she says, this was my first time visiting the Smith Center. Let me make it very clear. I was a huge Carolina basketball fan in a way that I'd like to think is unique to elementary and middle schoolers. At some point during the concert, I turned my head and noticed former pod guest Adam Kevin Salvadori, who at 7 feet, hard to miss. He was sitting 1 or 2 sections to my left, and I was absolutely ecstatic. Obviously, Kevin Salvadori is at the Jodeci MC Hammer Boyz II Men concert and had to get regular tickets. I kept looking over to his section, and at some point saw him stand up and start walking toward the concourse. So with pen in hand, channeling her inner Adam Lucas, I left my seat, ran up the stairs, and chased him down the concourse to ask him if he would give me an autograph on my ticket stub. Adam, good news, he did autograph Dawn's ticket stub, while also giving me an extremely, and I mean extremely, bewildered look. I mean, the guy was probably just heading to the restroom, and here's a 12-year-old at a Jodeci Boyz II Men Hammer concert chasing him down for an autograph. I think I've learned to tone things down a little bit since then. Adam still hasn't. I have no recollection if my parents knew what I was doing. Were they concerned that their daughter had suddenly ran off and disappeared somewhere in the Smith Center? Who knows? She probably got that pin from her dad, though. He always had a pin on him. Anyway, I still have the ticket stub as well as a letter from Dean Smith dated May 1st, 1992, thanking me for my interest in helping the basketball team. He said he would give my letter to Bill Guthridge, who would let me know if they ever had availability for another, quote, towel person. He didn't type it himself, of course, but he did sign it. I never did get that follow-up about the opening, which disappointed me greatly for years. But now I consider that letter to be an awesome souvenir from Dean Smith. He didn't have to respond to a 12-year-old, but he did.
Whew. Dawn sent us a picture of the ticket stub, and I can verify that I believe she has the only Boyz II Men Jodeci Hammer ticket stub signed by Kevin Salvadori in the memorabilia world.
So, Dawn, at some point, if you want to send that to the Carolina Basketball Museum, might be one that they put up there right next to the Michael Jordan or Tyler Hansbrough display.
Wasn't it Kevin Salvadori who randomly showed up in New Orleans? In
another story, yes.
Kevin Salvadori is always lurking.
It's on Family Feud.
That's right.
Never know what's going to happen. Maybe he, too, made an appearance in Air Bud 2 with Pete Chilcutt. We don't know.
Next time you're at a concert, you take a look over to your right and see if Kevin Salvadori's over there bobbing his head.
Adam, anything else?
No.
All right. We will be back in the near future.
Hope not.
We, in all seriousness, I think we are going to do a Roadhouse Challenge or a game rewatch or both in the coming weeks. We have, is it coming up? Is it next week, Adam, that we have our guest?
Yes.
Okay. Unique guest, different guest coming up next week. Not unique in like an odd way, just different from what we normally do here on the pod.
You'll understand perfectly when you see how it all unfolds.
Yeah, all that will make sense later on. But for now, we're going to let Patrick Suttus and the RZA get us out of here on the latest edition of the Carolina Insider.
I'm Patrick Suttus. See you later, Big Grits.
When I was small, we had nothing at all. We used to eat grits for dinner.
Pound box of sugar and a stick of margarine. A hot pot of grits kept my family from starving. Steamy hot meal served less than 5 minutes. Big silver pot, boiling water, salt in it. House full of brothers and sisters, the pot's missing. Pilgrim on a box on the stove in the kitchen.
When I was small, we had nothing at all. We used to eat grits for dinner.
See you later, Big Green.
The preceding has been a Learfield presentation of the Tar Heels Sports Network.